All right, we're going to do some density problems. So let's jump into it. So we got a block of aluminum, and it occupies a volume of 15.0 milliliters and has a mass of 40.5 grams. We want to know its density. So we know density equals the mass times the volume. So this is pretty straightforward. We have 40.5 grams divided by 15.0 milliliters. And let's go ahead and get rid of that, crunch that out. So we have 40.5 divided by 15.0. That equals 2.7, but we have 3 sig figs, so our answer will have to be in 3 sig figs. So we have to add a 0 to the answer. So 2.70 grams per milliliter. So there's the answer for our first one. So let's go on and let us do another one. Get rid of this problem. Let's see if we can scooch the paper up a little bit. And there we go. Let's look at another problem. We have mercury metal is poured into a graduated cylinder to exactly 22.5 milliliters. The mercury used to fill the cylinder has a mass, weighs 305.4 grams. We want to know the density of the mercury. So density, again, equals mass divided by volume. So we have a mass right here, 305.4 grams. We have a volume of 22.5 milliliters. So we can go ahead and crunch that out. So 305.4 divided by 22.5 equals this long number here. But let's look at sig figs. We have 4, we have 3, so our answer can only have 3. So 13.57 will get rounded up to 13.6. So 13.6 grams per milliliter. So that's our density there. All right, let's go through and do another one. And we want to know mass this time. What mass of the ethyl alcohol exactly fills a 200.0 milliliter container, and the density is 0.789 grams per milliliter. So we know our formula is density equals mass divided by volume. Now we can plug in and solve for it, or if you want to solve for it without the numbers, which is fine. So we want to know mass, so this is what we're looking for. And we know any value without a denominator is over 1, so we can cross multiply. So m times 1 is m, so mass equals d times v. So there's the formula we need. Now we could have plugged numbers in, then solved, and this works just as well. So mass is density times volume. So our density is 0.789 grams per milliliter. And we know our volume is 200.0 milliliters. But as we can see, the milliliters are going to cancel out. So we're going to be left with grams. So let's go ahead and calculate that. 0.789 times 200 equals 157.8. And we have 3 sig figs and 4 sig figs, so we can only have 3, so we'll round that up to 158 grams. 158 grams. All right, let's go ahead and do a couple more. In this problem, we've got a rectangular block of copper, and it weighs 1,896 grams, and the block is 8.4 by 5.5 by 4.5 centimeters. Well, it's a regularly shaped object, so we can go length times width times height, and it really doesn't matter what you can use for any of the values. So 8.4 centimeters times 5.5 centimeters times 4.6 centimeters. We'll go ahead and crunch that number out, see what we get. Get rid of that. Oops, get rid of that. 8.4 times 5.5 times 4.6 equals 212.52 cubic centimeters. Alright, so we have that. And now we want to know the density. Well, we've got our volume. Here's our volume. And we've got our mass right here, so we can go ahead and calculate it. So density is mass divided by volume. The mass is 1,896 grams, all over 202.52 cubic centimeters. So let's go ahead and crunch that out. 1,896 divided by 212.52 equals 8.921 grams per cubic centimeter. But now if we look at our sig figs, we've got 4 here, 5 here, but we've only got 2. So as you can probably guess, our answer can only have 2 sig figs. So our answer will be 8.9 grams per cubic centimeter. And if you recall, cubic centimeters and milliliters are equivalent. All right, let's do one more here. And get this one out of the way. There we go. We got a flask that weighs 345.8 grams, and it's filled with 225 mils of carbon tetrachloride, carbon tet. The weight of the flask in carbon tetrachloride is found to be 703.55 grams. From this information, calculate the density. Well, we've got the mass. The mass is given to us, and we've got a total of the mass, the flask, and the carbon tet. So we got to find the mass of just the carbon tet. So the mass is going to be the total of the two. This is the total minus the flask. And again, this is in grams. And if we go ahead and crunch that out, 703.55 minus 345.8 equals 357.75 grams. 357.75 grams. So now we got the mass. Here's our volume. And we know density is mass over volume. So mass is 357.75 grams over a volume of 225 milliliters. So we can go ahead and crunch that out. Leave that up there. Divide it by 225 and it equals 1.59. And it looks like we got 5 sig figs, 4 sig figs, 3 sig figs. So 3 sig figs will be our least. So it'll be 1.59 grams per milliliter will be our density of the carbon 10. So we'll come back and do some more a little later.